Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Trainz Railroad Simulator. Trainz 2022. Today we're going to be taking a look at the latest and greatest from K&L Trainz. It's been a hot minute since I've gotten to do anything for Trainz. I think the last video I did for Trainz was the Canadian Pacific Jubilees, matter of fact, from K&L Trainz. Content's been slow. New stuff has been slow in coming for Trainz. As far as interesting things, I might add, interesting things for the North American market. We kind of hit a brick wall for the year. Trainz Forge hasn't really done anything. Jointed Rail hasn't really done anything. And Jointed Rail's put out a couple of freeware things for club members that I noticed. They're mostly reskins. They're nothing that I would go, goodness gracious me. But really, K&L has kind of carried the new look for Trainz right now, so unfortunately I haven't gotten the chance to really look at much because there's really nothing new. But this is new. This is new, cool, different. These are the DL&W MU transit cars. I don't know if there's a particular name for them. So looking up information is a little bit different for somebody that doesn't know anything about transit and or interurban stuff. It's not really my boat to float. Stuff's cool. Credit where it's due. I do think it's cool. It's not in my interests personally. So I haven't really bothered to dive very deep into MU histories. So I have K&L Trainz' website pulled up because he already did it for me. So between 1929 and 1930, Delaware and Lackawanna set about electrifying its Morristown line and related branches out of Hoboken, New Jersey. A total of 141 powered motor cars were built by GE and Pullman to operate on these electrified lines, propelled by four 225 horsepower DC traction motors, allowing a maximum speed of 63 miles per hour on level track, 75 mile an hour downgrade. Power is provided by 3,000 volt AC overhead wires captured by a pair of roof-mounted pantographs, supplemented by 141 unpowered trailer cars of various types, which were converted from existing passenger cars. These MU cars operated in semi-permanently coupled pairs consisting of a powered unit and a non-powered trailer. Off-peak trains were typically 4 cars, while peak trains were anywhere from 8 to 12 cars. A single accident in 1962 saw the loss of a single trailer car, resulting in its motor car being placed in a 13-car lash-up, nicknamed the Tom Tabor Express. MU cars were inaugurated on September 3rd, 1930, with Thomas A. Edison at the controls of the first 13 miles to Montclair, New Jersey. MU cars lasted 54 years, seeing service under the DL&W from 1930 to 1960, the Erie from 1960 to 1976, Conrail from 1976 to 1982, and finally NJT from 83 to 84. They retained their Pullman green and gold lettering paint scheme until the very end when NJT began painting a number of cars red and cream. Final runs came with much fanfare on August 24th, 1984. The DC power system was subsequently retired. Of the 282 cars, a total of 59 motor cars and 97 trailer cars were preserved, most sold to tourist railroads, which It's kind of impressive if you think about it. 59.97. That's a pretty big chunk of really old stock. We're talking about stuff from the 1930s, and that much of this stock was preserved. That's kind of wild. Normally we're looking at locomotives where more often than not there's 3 or 4 that are preserved and the rest gets scrapped, unless we're talking about really recent diesels of the 1970s up. But what's kind of neat is some of these ended up relatively close to my home on the Grapevine Vintage Railroad. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of cool. It's kind of news to me how Grapevine ended up with some northeastern rolling stock is anybody's guess, but it's about as odd as a GG1 in Frisco, Texas, where no electrified main lines exist. But here we are. But kind of neat, just on the side. The Everett Railroad has some, which I did indeed get to see. We have ridden on the Everett Railroad. Middletown and Hummelstown Railroad, which I kind of goofed. I should have put those down now that I think about it. If I'm not mistaken, K&L actually has a set for the M&H, which does indeed include trailer cars modified for use on the railroad. The Reading Blue Mountain and Northern, Steamtown National Historic Site, Strasburg Valley Railroad Company, and Wimpany Railway Museum. In the pack, you're going to get DL&W, EL, and NJT paint schemes. I assume they did or got Conrail lettering. I don't know. But that is what was done for this pack. You get 3 low-roof motor cars, 3 low-roof coach trailers, 3 high-roof coach trailers, 3 high-roof combine trailers, 3 high-roof club trailers, and 5 as-built non-MU cars. Now, I think I got most of them placed. Not dead certain, not gonna lie. It's a bit confusing, especially when you get to the DL&W paint schemes, because there's other packs from K&L that include DL&W content. And if you're not knowledgeable on them, you're gonna look at it and go, I don't know. Which is exactly what I did. Because, as I said earlier, it's not my knowledge range very much. So, anyway, back to the map. Now, I'll go ahead and throw this out here too. I know, there's no overhead wires here. It's Trainz. Overhead wired American routes are kind of few and far between that are I don't want to say good, because I mean there's some okay routes from yesteryear that include overhead wires, but there's not a lot of routes up to today's standards that include overhead wires, because wires are an absolute pain to deal with in Trainz. So I don't fault anybody for not wanting to deal with them. I've tried so many times in my own route building and modification journey, and overhead wires in Trainz are one of the biggest pains in the butt. It kind of irks the snot out of me that Trainz has developed this far for this long, and not once have they improved that aspect of life track laying. That is one of those things that Trainz Sim Classic definitely does a lot better. But as such, these will still run. So another fun part about Trainz, overhead wires and third rails are just kind of there for giggles and squiggles. So anywho's anyways, back here I've got the Lackawanna cars. Up here I've got the Erie cars. And up here we've got the NJT reddish cream. So, matter of fact, now that I think about it, the paint scheme is not terribly far off from what Grapevine puts their coaches in. Yeah, just never stopped and noticed. That kind of upsets me. So, right off the bat, the detailing is pretty darn nice. They're definitely K&L Trainz standard. It's unfortunately we've got 2D rivets that are kind of low res. They're not wildly noticeable. It's just kind of one of those things where if you're up on it, you'll notice it, but back here, it's not really an issue. The lettering looks pretty darn good, though. It's nice. It's crispy. It's not fuzzy. The coloring looks pretty nice, too. We got nice roof detailing going on here. Couldn't tell you what any of this is or what it does. It is kind of hard to distinguish stuff if you're looking at it at the wrong angle, because all of the blacks are the same color. I know how bad that's gonna sound, so before somebody takes that out of content, I'm talking about the color here on the roof. We're looking at, you know, a walkway here, a roof, or headlights, horns, all of that uses the same tone of black that ends up making a lot of this kind of blend in or blur. But overall, still pretty darn nice. Now, of course, since these are MUs, we've got the ability to drive on either end. I'm not particularly fond of these blacked out windows. I don't really like them. It is what it is, but I don't care for them because these do have an interior, and you can't really tell because windows are blacked out. Now there are different cars. I couldn't sit here and point to all the differences between them. Besides the painfully obvious stuff, like, you know, a combine car has got the baggage department up here. I assume these high roof cars like this are the converted passenger cars, given that they do indeed look just like a normal steel passenger car of the era, besides the engineer places, the engineer cabs on either end of the cars. They do pretty much look like a steel car. So I assume the low roof cars are the MU specific builds. These do kind of have a nice idle sound. You know, I had a misconception. A lot of people have electric trains is that they're dead silent. It's just not true. You do have a lot of equipment on them, a lot of different bells, buttons, and whistles that are all going to be working at the same time. You do have generators. All that's going to be making noise. So, well, yes, they are electric. They don't have a physical engine in them. They still make a pretty fair amount of noise. So they do sit here and kind of idle. Pull this up. They do have, whoops, that's not what I wanted, but they do have details that we can play with as well. So you can choose which pantograph is up or down, as well as kind of fine tune them if your pantographs are tall or not. Can open our doors. We can choose to have marker lights on either end, which I have them set on this end. I'm not entirely sold on the marker lights coloring. It looks more like a paint than it does physical light. The headlight actually doesn't look half bad. I like the color. I like the overall lighting effect. I think it looks pretty good. But the marker lights don't really capture that. They don't really look like a light. They look, like I said, more like a little paint spot. Not my thing, but it is what it is. Oh, engineer 2. We can choose whether or not there's an engineer in the cab, which, again, given the black windows, I don't get the point, because you can't see the engineer, but oh well, it is what it is. We'll move back here to our trailer car as I die. We get the doors on the trailer car. To choose whether or not there's an engineer in the cab, as well as the marker lights. Obviously no pantograph, so we can't pick the pantograph up. What's that? Another powered car. I'm pretty sure this is the club car? I believe this is a club car. Slightly better seating and such. Let me pull this back up. Let's see. Go back to my references here. Yeah, I believe this is a club car, given the interior, the kind of fancier windows. And then these are the non-MU coaches. Now let's boogie back on up here. Now the Erie Lackawanna cars are not going to be wildly different from the Delaware Lackawanna cars. They're the same paint scheme, same color combo as was stated on the K&L website there. Really the difference is just the lettering. So not going to see much going on over here that's noticeable. I really hop down here to the NJT scheme, which they didn't wear very long in service, but I kind of like it. I think it's cool. Kind of reddish cream combo. But what is interesting is they're not actually lettered for NJT. They're just painted for NJT. Which kind of opens the door to the possibility of using these for like tourist trains and whatnot, which I mean does kind of fit. Obviously they're used on tourist railroads right now. It's kind of fun, kind of different. Matter of fact, given that it's not particularly hard to edit on the fly here, M and H. Yoink. I might not play willingly. Oh, shoot. There we go. Back to the drive. Pause. And here is the Middletown and Hummelstown. This is how they modified their cars, which are included in the M&H pack. These are not included in the actual MU pack. But it does give a kind of a neat idea of how these cars have been modified to fit tourist railroads. M&H over here using them for trailing car. They do still have kind of the have that little cab here. They got the horn, the headlight, none of the pantographs, the electrified systems inside. So, kind of a nice reference just to kind of see. Anywho, let's take one down the track and listen to the bells, buttons, and whistles. So they do have a custom cab, which is pretty alright. Is it the same level of complexity as what we see with some of the steam locomotives? Definitely not. It very much looks old. Not as new. I hate to bash on that, but it looks really old. Everything is 2D flat texture. So, that is unfortunate. Such is life. There's the horn. It doesn't have a bell. Interesting. We're on the WK&S, for anybody that is curious. WK&S from approach medium, largely because it seemed to fit. I don't have a transit room for Trainz. As I said, I'm not a big transit guy. It's just one of those things that really floats my boat. Yeah, we're speeding a little bit. That's okay. Oh, goodness. I haven't played Trainz in a while, and I am not used to the controls again. They sound pretty good. I mean, it's an electric sound. Most of what you're going to be hearing is the generators. Spool up, down, depending on the load you put on them. The physics are not half bad. It doesn't immediately take off and end up at a high speed, even though we don't really have a heavy load. These things are not powerhouse locomotives. They're 200 some odd horsepower. But that's interesting. I wonder if I can see that from the outside. Not really, it's kind of hard to tell the color. I mean, that's about all there is to point to. They're not complex per se, and I don't mean that in a derogatory term. They're not meant to be complex. complex. Fairly simple interurban commuter cars. It's not supposed to be a whole lot going on with them. So, what you see here is what you got. But I do think they're pretty cool. I think they're pretty neat. I can see a lot of use on tourist railroads and whatnot. If one were so inclined to do some reskinning, you could probably do some fun reskin for some different tourist railroads. Cough Cough, Eagle River, Cough Cough, or Pennsylvania Berwyn. But I do not like where the camera view is at all. You can't look out to the side here, so you're kind of stuck looking forward. That's about it, guys. I mean, there's really not much else to point to. They're not, like I said, they're not wildly complex. They're just kind of different and neat. I never really look at interurban stuff, so I thought it'd be different. And again, I haven't done a video for Trainz in a really long while, other than the Canadian Pacific Jubilee. Content's been slow, so I thought it'd be kind of nice to hop back into Trainz for a second, take a look at something new. 1 inch of snow on Wednesday. That's not cool. I don't have a job still. I graduated from school, so there's something. I do not have a job yet, unfortunately, but I did graduate from gunsmithing school yesterday. So for a little bit, I'll have time to kind of play around. Maybe we'll do some more route building. I haven't done that in a hot minute. I started playing around with modifying the Fort Kent to Eagle Lake on Trainz Sim Classic the other day. It's been a really long time since I played with Route Editor in Trainz Sim. Matter of fact, the last time that I really fiddled much with route editing in Trainz Sim Classic was when the game was still generally referred to as Railworks. It's I hate editing in Trainz Sim. It's frustrating how laughably outdated everything is, but different video, different time. So yeah, here we are. The DL&W MU sets from K&L Trainz. You can pick it up on their website. Matter of fact, he's got a sale going on right now. They're like $6 for everything you saw back there. It's really hard to complain for that price. I mean, again, I pointed to this. There's a lot of stuff on here that looks old, for lack of a better term. But on the other hand, it's $6, and I foresee myself using these a lot. If I have the time, I'm gonna reskin some of this stuff. I'll get a lot of use out of them. So I think for $6, if you're somebody that does reskinning and really likes touristy railroads, scenic railroads, stuff like that, you'll absolutely want these. Or if you're an MU guy, if you like interurban stuff, you'll really like these. Again, you kind of hosed when it comes to routes with electrified systems, because nobody likes to deal with that in Trainz, but what can you do? So, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Definitely go check it out. I will link K&L's website in the description, and I will see you next time.